Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in today. Today we have Mohamed Bhanji. It is such a pleasure to have you on, sir. It's been a while since I've been on and recording interviews, but now I'm back in the whole biz. So let's get started with our usual. Let's have you introduce yourself, and then we can kickstart this conversation.
Okay, so my name is Mohamed Bhanji. Presently, I live in Toronto in Canada, and maybe let me just tell you about my childhood. So I was born in Tanzania. My parents are from Indian descent, but I am an Ismaili Muslim by faith. So like it's a pluralistic background, born on the African continent, parents of Indian descent. Then I went to England to study chemical engineering and then emigrated to Canada. So it makes me like a sort of a global citizen. And with the virtual networks these days, ideally to be a global citizen, you have to speak many languages, have lived in many countries. But with the virtual world today, you can be a virtual global citizen. So that's just in a nutshell, my background.
That's amazing, and I feel like you really explored, and I feel like with exposure comes a lot of experience on its own as well, like having parents from another country, then being born and living in another, studying in another, now in another. So I feel like that has a lot of attached experience and exposure with it. So now, how were you growing up, and what were your interests?
Okay, so when I was growing up, it's quite different from growing up today. So I have a granddaughter and I can see how she is growing up. Whereas taking back many decades when I was growing up in Tanzania, it was just a simple childhood. So you would go to school, you would have friends. But what I remember most is even attending schools, it was quite a competitive or meritocratic environment at the Aga Khan schools in Tanzania. So like we had streams, like you were in any grade, you are in either A, B, or C stream. And even when you got your results, like you knew whether you were number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, or number 30. So in that sense, it prepared you for the future, although we didn't know it at the time. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I mean, I feel like a lot of times in here, like in where I live, Pakistan as well, there is that, position sort of thing, first, second, third. But that's when my starting years were, that's how that was. But that doesn't happen in our school anymore, thank God, because I feel like it really just has people coming for competition, and whether that be then parents or siblings or grandparents, they brag like, my grandson or my son was first, or my daughter was second in her grade. So I feel like it just becomes sort of like a disappointment for other parents and grandparents that like, our son wasn't first or third or second. So it really becomes a competition.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. Of course, the whole nature of education has changed. Now the more focus is on liberal arts type of education, where it's not just one way from the teacher to the student. It's much more collaborative type of an environment, so that even students are encouraged to think critically, to solve problems. So that's, if I had the opportunity to get educated today, that's the type of environment I would want to be educated at this time.
That's true. And I feel like a lot of educational visionaries and a lot of people that are educators are really working towards like different sorts of educations, like there's PBLs, there's CBL, challenge-based learning, project-based learning, micro schools, and there's just so many things that are happening. And I feel like there's a lot of innovation in education, because for a long time we were just stuck in like, okay, so now this is all we do, and this is what we're preparing them to do. That is just do a job. But right now we're preparing leaders and people to be astronauts, cartoonists, all different sorts of, professions.
And when I graduated, in order to further myself, my ambition was not to go to an East African university, but I selected a course in chemical engineering which was not offered in East African universities, which gave me an opportunity to go to England. So living in a different environment like broadens your horizon. And so I did chemical engineering for 4 years, and in the final year I got married, and then had a son, and then went to Tanzania for a couple of years. Then, due to political and economic situations, went back to England to do postgraduate course in chemical engineering. But when I graduated, there was recession in England at the time, so I could not find a job in my field. So I ended up having a job in a transportation company, working in finance. Okay, so like when people ask me, so what did you learn at the university? You did chemical engineering and you didn't practice it. So to me, my answer was, I learned how to think and how to learn. I think that to me is almost an enduring quality, lifelong.
Yeah, and I feel like there's different types of learners, but once you do, get a hang, like this is how I work better. I feel like it takes a person's whole educational life and all to get a hang of it. And once you do, I feel like that's when, you can really make magic happen. How did you get into connecting and collaborating? Because that's my passion. I love connecting to people around the world. And I love collaborating with people. Now that I realize that, okay, now that I collaborate a lot, I have to work a lot. So I need to tone it down a bit, perhaps. So, I connect two people, let them collaborate, and just witness the magic. So how'd you get into it?
Okay, so I'll give you two examples, like going back to my career in a corporate sector. So I worked in a transportation company in Canada. It's an intercity passenger transportation for the Canadian company. So although I was working in passenger transportation, rail transportation in Canada, in order to distribute our rail product, we asked the questions, just being inquisitive. If a new airline is born, okay, very quickly it's able to distribute through all the travel agencies worldwide. And yet a rail company had to have their own system and could not distribute. So that basically took me to go and work with IATA, which is the International Air Transport Association. Okay. So our company was the first company to distribute a rail product through an airline system. And then in late 1990s, when internet came along, it leveled the playing field. So our company, VRL Canada, became the first railway in the world to have an internet booking and payment system. And because I was sort of a pioneer within the company to develop that platform, I got invited to many conferences internationally to speak about what we had done. And what I did was instinctively, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I was acting as a bridge between the airline world and the railway world. So physically bringing people together. So because we were the first, they asked me to be the co-chair of the Internet Club, which later became the e-business forum of the International Union of Railways. And I would invite participants from airlines and other technology companies to come to railway organizations and present their ideas. So because we live in an ecosystem, doesn't matter where we are. So that was my initial foray into making connections. So this was, of course, in-person days before COVID. But when COVID came along, and so to fast forward to the last year and a half, what I did first was, in my opinion, I think COVID, yes, it has been a big problem for the world, but also it has given us, basically we have paused, and it has given us time to reflect. And to me, it has given us an unprecedented gift of time. So the way I used time was I started taking courses of general interest courses, not necessarily work related. So I took a course from Harvard on religious literacy in Islam through its scriptures. Then I took a course on ethics in action from Sustainable Development Group. And then I've taken further courses in Muslim societies and civilizations, Islamic art and architecture, word and image in Islam and so on. So it has sort of broadened my horizon. And then with the time in hand, then I became active on LinkedIn, and I began to, because over the years within the Ismaili Muslim community, I had the opportunity to serve in various leadership positions through which I had made so many connections. And if you look at the whole Aga Khan Development Network, it operates in 30 countries worldwide. So over the course of years, I've made so many connections, and now I'm able to connect different agencies within the same organizations. But I'm also connecting. Let's say you are an entrepreneur, or let me give you one example. So I connected with two girls who are the founders of the Gilgit-Baltistan Girls Football League. Okay, okay. So I connected with them. Then I connected, but they play football, and they were about a team of 8 girls, and but they play football against a majestic background of the Passu Mountains and so on, but they do not even have a proper pitch. And recently I connected with a person who's for the Los Angeles Olympic Games. She's the vice president of she's senior vice president of partnership development. So I felt that she would be the type of person who would be able to help these two girls to get a football pitch and so on. So I connected two of them. And other connections I've made is I connected with an entrepreneur who's in innovation and entrepreneurship in Washington. And I also connected with people at the Aga Khan University in critical, creative, innovative thinking. So I connected two of them. So these are the type of, like one thing I've been blessed with is when I see people or ideas or see connections almost pop up in my mind, and I try to act on it and try to connect people. So I think it's like, and what motivates me is the whole philosophy of the question is, it does not matter what you have achieved, it's what you have helped others to achieve. That's the social conscience of Islam. And then it enables me to put into practice that ethos of Islam.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I feel like it's very relatable for me, because that's how it happens. Like I would have a conversation with somebody, and anything they would say that would lead me, oh my God, they both should work together. And I've had people that have started working together, or here in Pakistan, right after I interviewed them, or connecting them with somebody. So I feel like it's just very beautiful to see, a new partnership that's flourishing for people like us that connect. But the main thing is not to, really just be in over our heads and be like, I did this, I was the one. Never taking credit for all of that is pretty much key. Now tell me something. You've made so many connections. What do you think is the importance of having a strong network?
So let's say that I'm almost in a position where I'm sort of retired. Okay, so and I believe that you always need purpose and meaning in life. Okay, so how are you going to spend the time? So one way I spend my time is I volunteer for the Aga Khan Museum here in Toronto. Okay, and that also allows me to make a lot of connections and to talk about the architecture of the building, but also arts of Islam and Muslim civilizations, to promote pluralism, understanding between cultures through art. Okay? So these are the type of opportunities which I've been blessed with. So that's one part of how I spend my time. And the other part, few hours a day, being on, and mostly the platform I'm on is LinkedIn, because it's a professional network with 700 million people. So, but what I believe is not the quantity of connections, but it's the quality of connections you are able to make. And sometimes when you're fortunate, even remotely, people become your real good, dear friends. And I've been blessed to make this type of friendships, which inshallah will be long lasting, lifetime type of friendships. Because I'm not trying to do this to gain anything for me personally. It's just helping people to connect with each other and help their own careers and their own journeys.
Yeah, and I feel that's very beautiful. And right now, what I know, because I was working very actively before COVID, but I feel like right when we got off of school and our school became online was when I really had lots of time on my hands, and I'd say, yes, we're doing this, and then that's how my network really started to grow. But I was pretty much building up on the network I already had when I was at the incubation center, or when I was part of very different organizations and academies. But right now, what do you think? How do you think this online and LinkedIn networking thing is going, and how do you like it? Because I've made some of my very best friends from LinkedIn or Facebook, or people that are working professionally, and now they're very close friends.
So I've got two views. One, yes, like, okay, this pandemic happened, and thanks that we have like a Zoom platform, and we have LinkedIn and other platforms where we are able to connect virtually. But to me, what is important is there's no substitute for human interaction. So, inshallah, when the COVID ends, the human interactions will again kick in, because at the end of the day, we are all social animals and we like that personal connection. But of course, you can only connect personally with a small network in your own town. Okay. Whereas with Zoom, it gives you that expanded possibilities of making connection. So we live in a hybrid type of a world, which is not a bad thing. So like anything you do, like you do it locally, but you would want a global impact. And that's what, whether you are a individual entrepreneur or where you are a big development organization, that's what you are trying to do. Impact the lives of people locally, but have a global impact.
Yes. And now tell me, what was it, an instinct, or how did you really just come up with, like, we should do online booking and everything? Because right now it's very normal. I mean, like, we as a family were thinking of a vacation to Thailand a couple of months ago. And we're like, okay, we'll book online and everything. So it's a very normal thing. And it has become a very normal thing with airline tickets and, tours and everything. But how was it back then? Was it like a revolution? That just like
in 1996, when the internet was just in its infancy, it was not normal at all. Okay, the way it started was people started with just putting marketing messages, creating a small website describing your company from a marketing point of view. Then it slowly evolved where they would put a form. Okay, give us your information, fill out the form, we'll process it and call you back with your booking, and we'll mail you the ticket. Okay. Then the next step was you automated just the ticketing process. So you did not have to have a physical ticket. You went into electronic tickets. Then what you did was you created the whole booking system. And we did this almost at the end in October of 1996, when we were the first railway in the entire world to do it. Okay, so I attended a conference and someone had demonstrated this technology, which was implemented for British Midland Airways in UK, which was the first airline in the world to have internet and booking system. So I saw this at a conference. I came back to Montreal, where I was working then, and I told my VP that this is something we should do because I see a big potential for that. So she said, how much money do you need? And at that time, it was just a modest investment to get the project started. So within 6 months, we were able to, or 9 months, implement a system. And then what we saw, every year, the volume of bookings would and the sales would double on the internet. So we were seeing exponential growth through that channel. So very soon it became, in 5 to 6 years, it became the dominant channel for distribution. So to me, I've been blessed to have been placed in a situation where I caught the early wave of the technology and to see it, the whole growth. Today, it's taken for granted. Now, if I was starting out today, then I would try to learn more about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and those type of technologies which are emerging, which will result in new type of products and services. Okay? So it's all a function of time and context. But to have this opportunity and then to capitalize on it, because we were the first one and we got worldwide recognition. Okay, that's how, although we were a very small railway compared to any other railway in the world, we got the opportunity to showcase our technology to an international community of railways. So I felt quite blessed to have been in that position.
Yeah, and I feel like you had the opportunity, and you really just went for it. Like, yes, we're gonna do that. And you're very lucky to have seen like the internet just like sort of start. I mean, like in 1996, it wasn't huge, and right now I feel like the only reason we're talking is the internet. No LinkedIn means no us even knowing each other. I mean, like, what are the odds we ever met like somewhere around in the world? And then there's no internet, there's no this meeting going on. So I feel like, yeah, we do take it for granted nowadays because it's normal. It's more normal because of COVID as well. But now that our interview is gradually coming to an end, what is one advice that you'd like to give out to all the young people in the world about making impact?
In fact, I like the word impact because like I'm a sort of a virtual volunteer for the Aga Khan Development Network. And if I was to outline the guiding principles, the acronym is ICRA, the very first revelation of the word to our beloved prophet. Okay, and I is for impact. The second Q, focus on the quality of the work you do, whatever work it is. Okay. The third one is relevance. Whatever you do has to be relevant and useful to the beneficiaries you are trying to serve. And fourth is access, that whatever you do must be accessible. So that acronym, I think, beautifully captures not only work in development sphere, I think it can be applied to any sphere of activity. Okay, because ultimately, whatever you do, you want to make an impact. But even if you're working in poorest of the poor countries in the world and trying to help ultra poor, do not sacrifice on the quality, because they also deserve quality in terms of intervention. So if you look at the work of the Aga Khan Development Network in Afghanistan, okay, they've got state-of-the-art educational facilities. They've got a 5-star hotel. There's a cell phone company called Roshan. Okay, everything, every intervention is guided by those 4 principles. So that's the advice I would give to any student or any entrepreneur or any human being on any sphere of activity.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being on, sir. It was an honor. And if anybody wants to connect to you with, what's the best platform and what's the best way to connect?
Oh, so the best way would be on LinkedIn. So my name is Mohamed Bhanji. They can look me up, and it's Mohamed with just one M, Mohamed, and the last name is Bhanji, Bhanji, and I'm happy to connect.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you so much for watching. Whenever I'll be uploading this, I will definitely tag him, so you can go check out his LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me and him. And if you have any more follow-ups for him, you could connect with either of us. Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, and thank you so much for your time. And I feel honored that you felt that I was worthy to be interviewed. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and one last point, like in terms of advice, which you asked me just the question, I think we live in a world with unprecedented change, okay? And the ability to keep on learning is extremely important, but you need intellectual humility. I think that's a quality which is most important, whoever you are.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We'll definitely keep that advice with me as well. Thank you.